I want to thank a couple of people today. Coach Mike Riley for handling a lot of the barbecue tonight that you guys ate. My wife Sarah, Ms. Dorothy Phillips, Ms. Kay Kaufman, and Ms. Kathy Show for helping putting all this together with the decorations, organization, and everything else. We're glad and fortunate to have Mr. Booher here, our superintendent, Coach Smith, our athletic director, and Mr. Phillips, our board president, here tonight with us. Just thankful for their support and support of our program and our student athletes on a daily basis to allow them to have the things that they get to do during the course of a season. And we want to also thank Mr. Greg Souter for helping us get our special guest tonight, Mr. Dave Baker, here to speak with us. We're extremely excited about what Mr. Baker has to say to our team and our audience tonight, and we're very appreciative of Mr. Souter getting him here. I want to do a real quick recognition of our staff. If you don't care, guys, just stand. You can wave. Brian Pendergraph, with me now for 6 years. Miss Barb Carlson. She's not going to stand, but she's in the very back, waving, giving the double fist pumps up there. Ray Daniels, this is Ray's second year with us. Mr. Justin Ellis, he's going to be our freshman-sophomore coach this year. Mr. Blair Pittman, this is Coach Pittman's first year. He's actually on a new role that we've started a health and wellness program for our student athletes. They deal with a lot during the day. At school, they deal with some stuff at home, deal with some stuff at practice. Coach Pittman's just an outlet and a resource for them to be able to be a sounding board to get away from the coaching staff if they have issues that they're needing to get addressed. Coach Pittman has a counseling background, and he's able to utilize that with our guys, and they have a safe place to go if something's bothered them. And then he also helps us with our academic side to make sure our student athletes are keeping up the part of being a student athlete, not just an athlete. And then we have Mr. Jeremy Carlson, strength coach, been on his second year. Be hard-pressed to find a better strength coach in the area, the state. What Coach Carlson's done with transforming some of our guys' bodies in the last 2 years has been nothing short of remarkable, and we're very appreciative of him. Want to introduce some very important people to our program, Miss Khalees Gammon, Miss Alyssa Pittman, and then we also have Anna Weber and Gavin Devine, who are not here. They are our managers. They get everything done for us at practice. They handle all the dirty stuff that the boys leave them in the locker room with laundry and everything else, and we fill the water bottles. And basically, we couldn't do our day-to-day job without them. So we're very, very thankful for them. We have a large freshman class this year. We're very, very excited about them. We'll start off introducing them. Mr. Gage Phillips. Mr. Jacaven Walker. Mr. Tucker Jenkins. Mr. Jackson Dowdy. Mr. Ashton Drakeford. Mr. J.J. Goodman. Mr. Landon Reed, who might be the sharpest dressed man here tonight. I'm just throwing that out there. Mr. Andrew Sparrow. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Caleb Murray. Our sophomores, Jordan Axum, Trevor Ellis, Andrew Tatum, Jaden King, Braylon Ellis, and Cameron Sanders. Our juniors, John Lincoln Perry, Jackson Perry, Donovan Wright, and Thaddeus Mays. And then we only have one senior here tonight. We have two on our team. Wade Lane, that was unable to make it with us tonight. And then we also have Mr. Seth Caton. The guys have been working extremely hard. We got our football guys back Sunday. They stepped right in as soon as their football season ended. We'll have 8 practices before we get a scrimmage at Anderson County on Tuesday, so we'd like to invite everybody out. We start scrimmaging Anderson at 6 o'clock Tuesday night at Anderson County High School. We'll have a varsity first, JV, and then freshmen will follow. So we're looking forward to being able to scrimmage and play against somebody that's not us. Our players have been working extremely hard, like I said, in the classroom and on the practice floor, in the weight room. It's pretty remarkable seeing how they are able to balance it all. Because I remember when I played, you really weren't into the weightlifting side of it. You played basketball, you did class, you went home. Seeing these guys balance, class, everything else that they're going through, basketball, social life, everything else, is pretty amazing to see because we have a really, really good group of young men over there. We're excited about our upcoming schedule this year, especially on the varsity side. We have a very challenging schedule. We made it that way on purpose. Our first game of the year is against Harlan County. They have 2 Division I kids. We're very excited about that, getting to play that on a neutral site. That's a Sweet 16 type game that we could envision, something to get us against officials that were not necessarily in our region, and we're looking forward to going down to South Laurel and opening up our season. We also are hosting 13 home games this year, so that's really, really nice. When we factor in our Christmas tournament to Tennessee, we're 13 at home, 13 on the road, so it's always a nice split. We're also hosting several great events. We're hosting the Ellis Trucking Christmas Classic. We have 8 teams. We're utilizing KMS and the high school to host 8 different teams playing those nights. We have some really good competition. We're really, really excited about that event. We're also hosting the 11th versus 12th Region Classic this year, and we have Scott County in that. So that's nice to get Scott County in our gym, get them out of their friendly confines up in Georgetown, and get them over to Mercer County. We also are hosting the Grind Session event. We'll be sharing more information with you guys about that. We have numerous teams from all over the country and from Canada coming to our campus February 3rd, 4th, and 5th. On Saturday, that is February 4th, we are actually lucky enough to be hosting Cardinal Bronx Hayes out of the Bronx, and they have the #1 player in the 2024 class, who is a Kentucky lean by the name of Ian Jackson, who's going to be playing in our gym. So we're extremely excited about that event, along with several other notable teams throughout the state and the country coming. And then have some big games at home. Pulaski County comes to us. Senior night this year is going to be against Southwestern with a boy-girl doubleheader on February 16th. So we're just really excited about the direction that we're heading, excited about our group. We got a lot of young guys, very talented guys who have been pushing our older guys in practice. I think we're going to have a really exciting season. We hope that you can make it to a game. Like I said, next Tuesday night we are scrimmaging Anderson County at Anderson County starting at 6 o'clock. We'd love to have you out there. We appreciate you guys coming out tonight and supporting us and supporting our student athletes. This is a really, really nice event that we can hope to make an annual event, and we just appreciate your support. And as always, go Titans. At this time, I'll have Mr. Greg Souter introduce our guest speaker, Mr. Dave Baker.
Yeah. Thanks, sir. Thanks. Good job. Okay, guys, it is wonderful to be here, and you all better practice, man. That schedule sounds pretty rough. Gee whiz, are you up for it? You good for it? Sure. Okay. I am Greg Souter, and y'all probably do not know Greg Souter. I am Nicholas Landon and Emmy Souter's dad and Debbie Souter's husband, and you all probably know those folks way better than me, which is fine. It is exciting to be back here. I will share, I do feel pretty old coming back here. Some of you guys probably know, I shouldn't say many. I wasn't a Mercer County guy. My kids were Mercer County kids, but I was a city boy. And I went to, I was looking at Donald Wayne. He's a fellow city guy, just like me, at Harrodsburg, and graduated just a few years ago, and so forth. But let me introduce my buddy here, and I'll share some other stuff just shortly after his official bio, and so forth. But you all may have seen this guy on TV or heard him on the radio, but his name is Dave Baker, and he's a sports anchor, reporter, and account executive at WKYT TV in Lexington. Dave does a bunch of special events programming in addition to hosting a variety of UK and SEC televised events. He celebrated and Dave and I are really close in age, he celebrated his 40th year at WKYT on April 29th. So congratulations to you, Bake. This is Dave's 36th season, and I listen to this all the time. I never call. But this is his 36th season as host of the UK Sports Network's Countdown to Tip-Off show on the school's statewide radio network that airs 90 minutes before each Wildcat game. During his time at WKYT and UK network and the network, Dave has covered the Cats in 5 Final Fours and 3 national championships in 96, 98, and 2012. Dave is a past member of the Foundation Board for Baptist Health Lexington. Currently sits on the System Foundation Campaign Cabinet for Baptist Health Kentucky, and he's a member of the Baptist Health Lexington Administrative Board. He's a 1978 graduate of Franklin High School in Franklin, Ohio, of course, and a 2005 inductee into the Franklin High School Hall of Fame. He's an 82 graduate of Georgetown College, go Tigers. And Dave and his wife Donna have 3 daughters, Madeline, Macy, and Mallory, and 3 sons, Patrick, Matthew, and Manning. And that's the official stuff. Now I'm going to give you the dirty stuff. And so Dave and I have been friends just about 40 years. And it's interesting how small this world is. He ran into my kids as they went to school. Some of you may know, may not know, doesn't matter. My oldest son, Nicholas, who's 30, getting married next weekend. He went to Vanderbilt and worked under Kevin Stallings' basketball program. And anytime UK came down to Nashville to play Vandy, my son Nicholas and Dave kind of hooked up, and he kind of gave my son a little heck, and which was okay, and part of the gig, and so forth. And then my middle one, Landon, I don't know how many soccer guys are in here, but my middle one, Landon, played soccer for Johan Settergren at UK, and they're having a great year, ranked number 2 in the country, and so forth. And Dave, we would go to the games early, of course, and tailgate a little bit and all that kind of thing. And Dave, for ESPN, would announce the UK soccer games and he still does, for UK men's and women's. And so it's kind of interesting that Dave and I met at Georgetown, played a ton of golf and a ton of pickup basketball and some other stuff that I won't punish him on, or you guys on here, that we had a lot of fun and so forth. And I don't think he did anything for Emmy. Now sending you for right. So anyway, but Dave is a really impressive person. He's a great friend of mine. It's amazing that he and I have been friends for 40 years. And 2 quick stories that I thought, FYI, you don't know this, and it's pretty cool. He is from Franklin, Ohio, and we had several other buddies that went to Georgetown from Franklin, Ohio. One of those really close buddy of mine and Bake's was his name was Mark Kennard. Does anybody pay attention to or watch NBA basketball? Raise your hand. Anybody watch NBA basketball? Well, there's a really, really nice player. I don't think he starts, but he plays a lot. There's a really, really nice player called Luke Kennard. And we thought Luke Kennard, Bake and I, we thought we were going to get at UK. We thought we were going to get Luke Kennard, but he went to Duke, unfortunately. Went to the dark side, went to Duke, and so forth. But his father was a really good friend of mine, and he's from Franklin, Ohio, and he's of mine and Dave's. So that was one thing, did you know, type thing, which is kind of cool relative to the basketball world. But here's the most cool thing that he probably doesn't know I'm going to share, and I did not tell him I was going to share. But in 1986, Bake called me to, hey man, let's go play night. I want to talk to you about something. Well, Dave and I, before we had a bunch of kids and got married and busy and all that kind of stuff, we played a lot of golf together. And he said, man, I said, let's go play 9, and I want to talk to you about something. I said, okay, hey, you don't have to twist my arm to play golf. I'm in. So we go play, and so we're playing, and we'd already played like 6, 7, 8 holes, whatever. Of course, I'm into playing, and so is he. And I said, man, I thought you wanted to talk about something. He said, I do. He said, I'm going to lay this on you. And again, 1986. He says, I got an opportunity, and then he was still with WKYT. he said, I got an opportunity. He says, I don't know what to do. I said, well, what is it? Throw it at me. He said, I have an opportunity to be the announcer and sports broadcaster for the World Wrestling Federation. And I said, and instantly, I said, you know, and that's kind of one of those things, here we are, Tojo, Yamamoto, Jerry Jack, and he said, you're my worst combat boots, and what do you think about that? You know, that kind of thing. And, you know, they get into it and all this kind of thing. And so I said, hey, surely you're not going to do that, are you? Surely you're not going to do that. And he said, well, let me tell you the rest of the story. And this is what's impressive. And this is going to get your attention. He said, here's the deal. They're going to pay me, 1986, going to pay me $100,000 to do this job. And I said, oh, wow, that's the reason you're here. And he said, yeah. I said, dude, man. And this is legit. This is not a joke. True story. And I said, oh my God, thank you. He said, dude, how do you turn that down? I said, that's big money, but I said, surely you're making good money at WKYT. In 1986, you remember how much you were making? I remember how much, the number you told me.
It wouldn't take us long.
It was $17,000. It was $17,000, and I said, oh my gosh. He said, how are you going to turn that down? He said, well, here's the deal. Here's the deal. He says, if I go down that path, I'll never be able to come back to legitimate, regular, normal sports journalism, sports broadcasting. And you see what choice he made. I think he made the right choice. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a Mercer Titan big welcome to Dave Baker. All right?
Thanks, Scott. Very kind, brother. Golly. Guys, what Mr. Souter illustrated to you right there was just how dang dumb I am. Actually, the other part of that was, before I get into what I was going to talk about, the whole connection there was Randy the Macho Man Savage. Randy actually started, he was a catcher in the Reds minor league system. And then his dad, Angel, was the wrestling promoter. And his real life brother was Leapin' Lanny, who was part of the deal. So they would shoot their show on like Thursday nights over in Lexington. And then he would actually come to the station like on Friday morning to edit the show himself. So all of a sudden you hear, coming up the steps, you go, hey Dave, anybody using the edit bay? No, come on, you got it, Randy. Good, I don't need it in here. And he was the best guy in the world. Best guy in the world. When he made it as big as he made it and made millions of dollars, he never forgot about people. He would ask me about people at the station, and it wasn't like the anchors or anything. It was like, is so-and-so still working in the tape room? You know, does Phil still take care of the grounds? And he was just a great guy. And those guys, you know, you may want to laugh about it, but those guys get it because they're not only athletes, but they're performers. And they understand the whole interaction with society and everything. So thank you all for having me here. How many of you got together for a meeting after the first meeting with Coach, and who was the first guy that said, he's going to make us practice at 5:45? Who was it? Come on. One of you guys went back in the locker room and said that, right? Yes. So you're just going to look at him, right? He expects me to practice at 5:45. Everybody says it. I get it. It's part of a team. Yeah, I got you. But I'm not going to talk long because I know you guys were up at 5:45 this morning. One thing, Greg, I forgot to, is your wife here? No. Okay. Before I get to that, didn't we just have an election here? And so whenever there's election, what's the thing you never have to look for? Asphalt. They're paving everything in the county when it's election year, right? This is a beautiful facility, but when are they going to widen Hopewell Road for? It's like Hopewell is a good name for it, right? I mean, Jack Crystal was the play-by-play guy for the Mississippi State Bulldogs for almost 50 years. And I had the great fortune, I think I'm the only broadcaster still working now in the state actively that got to work with Kaywood Ledford. And Kaywood was unbelievable. He said to me one time, he said about retiring, he said, I never want to get to the point where somebody says, you know, that guy should have retired a couple years ago. Because a lot of people don't remember this, okay? Last game he ever did was the Christian Laettner shot. And he was incredible on that game. And Kay Wood, back during that time, it's not uncommon in the state, he was a big smoker. So football games were always easy. So there was one football game one night, and he would usually go through about 2 of those cartons of Benson and Hedges. And it was a Kentucky-Florida game. And Randy's laughing because he knows this. And so he says, listen, he says, I've got some stuff in my chest, and a doctor gave me this stuff to take for it. And he said, sometimes it makes me a little woozy. So if I stop or something, just elbow me. Well, I mean, we get to about the third quarter, and I think he was on about his third bottle of that. And he never missed a beat, but he was just a legend. And so Jack Crystal down at Mississippi State, as you talk about Hopewell Road, back in the 60s, obviously there was a lot of civil rights unrest and everything, and they had the great entertainer Bob Hope go out and do a tour to all the campuses, especially in the South, trying to get people to just basically get along, right? And so one of the assistants, they were playing Alabama, and Alabama was up 24-0, like about 5 minutes into the second quarter. And one of the assistant athletics directors comes into the Mississippi State booth and says, do you want hope at halftime? And Jack said, hell, I need hope now. And that's what I was thinking when I was driving in here tonight. I mean, this is a beautiful venue. I mean, it really is. But I mean, it is tight. I don't have one of them big trucks or anything either, but it is tight. I just want to share a few things with you. It is great to see Greg again. He doesn't remember the one that I remember about our golf games. And that's why I asked if his wife was here. I guess it was, who was it? Was it Nick? I can't remember. One of his kids was getting ready to be born. And we were playing golf over at the Danville Country Club. And he got the call that she was going to the hospital. And we were on about 13 or 14. And I said, do you need to go? And he said, no, I think we can get it. I don't think to this day she still knows that. But it happened the same way with my oldest daughter. She's now an ER nurse over at UK. And Kentucky was playing a home football game against South Carolina. And I got a call from the hospital. And I had to do the stuff through the halftime and everything. Nurse said, I think we're going to have a baby tonight. I said, okay, great. I said, you think I can get through halftime? And she said, oh, yeah, we can hold her off for a while. I said, all right, there we go. And we got that done and got over there. But I just want to talk to you guys and to you parents. And I'm not picking on anybody here. But can all you guys help me give a big round of applause for all these parents? You don't understand it now, but when they're dragging you out of bed by the back of your neck to get to that 5:45 practice, they would just as soon be sleeping as well. And, you know, every family is different. And my dad and my mom were a couple of people from eastern Kentucky that moved up to southwest Ohio in the 60s when coal went bad. They got jobs up there. All my family did in the factories. My dad and I worked in a paper mill to pay for college. And I so applaud and thank all you parents who are able to be there, who run the fundraisers, who are working the gate, who are doing all sorts of things. I mean, it's amazing. We could not have high school athletics today without that. And then there are some parents you don't see. And it's easy for us to think that they're just not involved or they're just not involved in your life. But the truth of the matter is some people can't get there. My dad maybe saw me play twice. And that's because he was working in that paper mill doing the best he could for us, and he was working shift work. And we grew up in kind of a different time. Sal never dealt with this, but I did. I never heard my dad say that he loved me. But I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that he did. And I never heard him say he was proud of me. But I know he was. But we just grew up in a different time. And that doesn't mean it was right or wrong or anything like that. So I would just challenge y'all, not players, but parents and everybody, every day, tell somebody you love them. Because we can talk about how things are different, and they are. But there is nothing you can do more for people than to let them know you care. And you'll go through a lot of things in life. And Greg was talking about this a little bit. We met in college. But the closest friends you'll have are those guys that are sitting right there next to you. Your high school friends. And I know a lot of parents would say this same thing. They'll be that they will bring up things that you never thought they would remember about your time in high school. And when I was in high school, I played football. I wasn't very good, but I could fill up a hole. And in basketball, I played until I was in freshman and then got cut. And we hadn't won our league in like forever. And in the blooming snowstorm of 1978 that some of the parents will remember, it came, and we were out of school for 3 weeks. Our roof was leaking. We couldn't play in our home gym, so we played down at the junior high school. And our guys went out there, and they won the first championship in forever. And the guys that are still with us, there are a couple that are gone, but the guys that are still with us, we try to get together as often as we can. Usually we get together for golf up in Cincinnati or something once a month or in our hometown. And hardly ever do we talk about any of those games. We talk about when somebody got in trouble for smarting off at practice and had to run, or, you know, somebody did this. We had a guy, he's at MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And he lost his dad about a week ago, and we were laughing about the fact this guy, I mean, he's doing really high-level research. He would meet me and my roommate, who I ended up rooming with in college. We didn't have a team meal before the game because we didn't have that kind of infrastructure. But we would always go to the Ponderosa. For you guys, that's kind of like Golden Corral now, right? And invariably, Jamie would come and meet us, and he wouldn't have a dime on him. And this is before like debit cards and all that stuff. And so we paid for his pregame meal for 4 years. And we still laugh about it to this day, and we'd do it all over again. And that's the kind of stuff that you're going to experience. I'm going to tell you that 5 a.m. practices are no fun. And when you're out there running, it's no fun. And when you come back from someplace and it's a long bus ride, and you've got to help your parents in the morning or go back to school, it's no fun. But I've told people before, and I truly believe this, the last guy on the bench for any team is so much better than a kid that never played sports. You can't imagine what kind of difference it makes. Teaches you to get along with people. I mean, it teaches you might get in a fist fight. And boys are entirely different from girls. Boys today, and I've got a senior over at Dunbar, and you know, it's like you wait for that light to click on, right? You're like, come on light, come on light. And finally this August it came on. And I'm like, okay, everything's gonna be okay. But my guys sometimes, if they get frustrated, they just quit. All right, fine, I'm not gonna play anymore. I'm done. Girls aren't like that. Girls will like fight you. They'll fight dirty and they'll do all that stuff. I've got twins that are now 22 years old, and my whole life consisted of they're loving on each other 1 minute and they're having a fist fight over a sports bra 2 minutes later. I mean, it went that way all the time. You could not get them to quit on anything. And now it just seems like so many people are willing to quit. And you just fight through it. Just think for a second about what people do. And so what I want to say to you is you get ready to go into the season. Before I do that, let me tell one story. Greg was talking about Luke Kennard. So Mark, I actually signed him to play basketball over at Georgetown. He was a really good player. He's probably last on the career list of all-time assists because he was the black hole. Once he got the ball, it was either being shot or it was going out of bounds. He wasn't passing a thing, and that's his whole family legacy. But he had this kid named Luke, and how big is Mercer County?
20,000.
Yeah, okay, so my hometown, Franklin, is 13,000. It's kind of about the same size. And so we thought Luke might be a pretty good athlete when he first started going. And he would literally drive around the neighborhoods and have Luke dribble the basketball while he was following the car. And he'd have him change hands and he'd have him do all this stuff. And so he was playing really well, but we were from a small place. And so then they went to the Peach Jam down in Georgia. And he just blew up. I mean, he balled out down there. And I got calls from Patino, from Billy Donovan, from John Pelfrey. Word had gotten around that I knew this kid. And everybody wanted to get in on him. And so Cal called, and, you know, it came down to the fact that I'm either A, the worst recruiter in the history of Kentucky basketball, or Coach K just did a better job of recruiting him. And being from a small town and the way that Duke campus and everything is, that was probably a better fit for him. And so then he gets down there and he's playing really well until Coach K threw his back out. And then Jeff Capel, remember, he took over as the interim coach, and he kind of froze him on the bench. I referred to him as the only guy that can stop Luke Kennard. And so then he came back the next year, and he really started playing well. And I called Mark up, and I said, Mark, do you have any insurance on Luke? And he said, what do you mean? I said, you can get that kind of insurance against future earnings. What do you mean, Mike? And it's just the way it sounds, isn't it? And I mean, he was just such a humble guy. He never thought his son was ready for this. And so I make a call, and there's a guy named Eric Chenoweth who played at Kansas that some of the adults may remember. He's the #1 guy in the country for athlete insurance. And so I had a great talk with him. He called me back. He said, Dave, are you sure that he doesn't have any insurance? I said, 1,000% sure. Why? And he said, because everybody else on that Duke team has got insurance that the school's paying for. And so the folks from Franklin, Ohio didn't know that they were being kind of hung out to dry. Well, Luke kept playing, and I helped introduce him to his agent, a guy named Aaron Mintz from out in Los Angeles. His firm represented Randall Cobb, and I knew those people. And he said, I promise you, we'll take care of it. There won't be any monkey business. We'll take care of it. So he gets drafted. What did he get drafted by? 13th, 14th. He was a lottery pick for the Clippers. Played a couple years there for Dwayne Casey. And this is the whole small world thing. As I say this, I'm not name dropping. You don't realize how small this world is. Dwayne Casey, the coach of the Pistons, called up to talk about him. When Dwayne played at UK, the first job he had after school was selling advertising with us over at WKYT. He said he finally got tired of everybody making all this money and selling advertising, and they'd send him down to Harlan and Pikeville and Hazard. And so he was coach of the Pistons, wanting to find out about him. And so he goes and plays well, and then you can get that first big contract. And so this is right in the middle of COVID. And I was up at I was out at the mall, and I get a phone call, and it's Aaron. He said, hey, how you doing? I said, I'm good. And this is a guy, and there are a lot of people in my life like this. And it doesn't have to be, but the way we are as a society, a lot of people I've worked for, I've never met in person. I've never been in their office. And Aaron and I have never met in person. He said, I told you we were going to take care of Luke. I promised you we would take care of him. And we've got that kind of contract. I said, Aaron, that's great. I said, I never had a doubt about that. That's awesome. I said, if you don't mind me asking, how much is that life-changing contract? And he said, $59 million, but I believe we've got a really good chance to get the bonuses and get to 66. And I said, that is awesome. And so I just want to let you know that after all that work and everything, I have gotten one hoodie and one pair of tennis shoes from Paul George, not even from Luke. But the feeling that you have to see somebody do something like that is incredible. And early on, my kids said, why do you help people like that when you're not getting anything from it? And I said, you don't understand how much I'm getting from it. And you hear a lot about paying it forward. What you give to people, you'll get back. There's no question. And so as you talk about being people or about being athletes, I had the great opportunity when I was doing SEC stuff a lot to talk to a lot of different coaches. And for whatever reason, Nick Saban liked my silly tale. I mean, we would sit and talk, and his people were like, God, he never talks to anybody like that. You know, he grew up, and his dad ran a gas station over in West Virginia. Somebody asked him one time, said, why, you've got great penmanship. Why is it like that? And he said, because I worked at a gas station, and my dad was always underneath the cars working on the cars. And if we messed up his signature, parents can remember this, used to be able to get oil in like those metal cans. There were like 12 of them in a case. And so the distributor would come by and drop them off the gas station. Somebody had to sign for him. He said if we did a bad job on his signature, we were going to get it when we got home. And that may sound kind of like trivial, but that's the way you form habits. And so he was talking one time and he said, as an athlete, as a person, as a businessman, as a husband, as a father, as a mother, there are 5 things that you can be on your journey. You can be bad. You can be mediocre. You can be good. You can be great. Or you can be elite. Those are the only 5 choices you got. And it's not dependent on talent. It's not dependent on what kind of shoes you're wearing and what kind of shoes somebody else are wearing. It's dependent on what you put into it. It's dependent on whether you get those extra shots up after practice. You know what? You may not be the leading scorer, but it's like Sal was talking about doing that rebounding. You're the person that is always there to help out a teammate after practice and help them get up extra shots. And that is something that will serve you every day for the rest of your life. There will never be a time when you don't look back on that. But I tell you, once you get to be my age, which is advanced, you get concerned because you see so much. And I want to get a little serious here for a minute, and it has been, for me, a tough couple of weeks in a lot of different ways. I told you my son is a senior over at Dunbar. And for the first time in 40 years this year, I took 2 weeks off. And so when we came back, I drove straight here. Our first football scrimmage was here against Craig and a guy. On a Friday night, I came straight from the beach in Florida and came here. And then got back to it because, as Greg said, 4 of my kids, my 3 daughters and then Manning, have all been through Dunbar. And I've gotten to be great friends with those folks over there. And like other parents, I try to volunteer whenever I can. I do what I can. For those of you, like I do the PA for the games. That may seem like it's natural, but I'd much rather do that than go over to someplace like Amazon and like pack packages. I can't put those boxes together, right? Or go work bingo in some smoky place or something. So I do that. And so the last 3-4 weeks, I've basically been running the game day over there. And our athletics director, who is a dear friend, Jason Howe, has been out. And he was, Hillard Howard had those great football teams down at Pikeville. And he was a member of those teams, won a couple of state championships. And, we thought there was something going on physically, and he was dealing with some stuff. And we did everything we could to try to break through with him. And in a matter of a week, we had our volleyball team become just the second public high school team to reach the state finals. They ended up losing to Notre Dame. And our soccer team won its second boys' straight championship. And he'd hired all those coaches. And I texted him after the boys' championship game on a Saturday night to say, hey, were you watching on the stream? Absolutely. I said, great. I said, you should be so proud. You put all this together, and you've had a great week. And I said, listen, I don't know what's going on with you, but please, God, let me help. I'm on the board at Baptist. I can get you to see anybody. Let me help. And I didn't get an answer back. And that Monday morning about 10 o'clock, I got a phone call that none of us ever want to get. And Jason had gotten in this funk, and he had taken his own life. Now, that's pretty heavy stuff. But you guys have seen stuff like that coming through this COVID thing, right? I mean, we talk about it with kids. I want to talk about it with parents out there. Dudes, I'm telling you, I'm the most blessed person on the planet. But sometimes this world is a mean old place. And mom and dad deal with it every day. And they would never say anything to you, the same way that my parents would never say anything to me. But what happens when you've got more month left than you got money? And I mean, there are a lot of people carrying around a lot of stuff. My point to you is this. Don't be afraid to reach out to people. If they're not themselves, you don't have to go into full panic mode, but sometimes there could be like one little thing that happens that turns them around and pulls them out of a funk. And it may just be a hello. It may just be, hey, let's get out of here, take a walk, get them a change of scenery, do something. There is never anything, no matter how bad it looks, there is never anything that is so bad that that's an answer. And I used to think when I was younger and I didn't have all this gray hair that people that did that were just weak. They're not. They just need help. And when they found his phone and his iPad and his email, there were literally hundreds of messages from people asking how he was doing. What can we do? He was so loved. And Coach, I was so happy to hear that you've got that kind of program that you got here. And it doesn't mean you're weak if you avail yourself of it. And it's okay to grab somebody by the hand and say, come on, we're going to go talk together. Because the influence you have and the things you're going to be around now, you don't understand how important they are. I'm going to tell one story, and then I'm going to let you go. I'm going to say it's because you got to get up early in the morning. But the real truth is I can't stay up this late anymore. No, I'm just kidding. Here's the question to ask yourselves as you start this season. How can I take a step back so somebody else can step up? Now, the best example that I can remember is back in 2012. And that's when Kentucky won that last national championship. So they had a really good team, right? And a bunch of guys coming back. They had new guys coming in, playing really well. And they get to the SEC tournament. And for those of you who remember, Darius Miller from over at Mason County was the MVP of the SEC tournament the year before. And he wasn't starting now. This kid from New Jersey, Michael Kidd Gilchrist, who was playing, was the starter. And Kidd Gilchrist came from a really difficult background. His mom was a nurse who worked in a hospital. She had to work all the time. His dad was shot when he was very young and killed. And the man who helped raise him had a heart attack and died on the day he signed with Kentucky. And he used to carry around with him, and I'm sure you've seen this like in your grandparents' house, and I know some of you have got them in the house. You know, those old imitation gold leaf frames that had a picture in it from Olin Mills, and it would just about hardly stay together. He had one of those, an 8x10, of his mom and dad on their wedding day that he took everywhere with him. He would have it in his locker at road games. He had it in his room. And the young man had just been touched. And so before the championship game of that SEC tournament, he went to Cal and said, why don't you start Darius and see if we can get him going? And so Cal did. This was a freshman. How many of you guys at a championship game would be willing to go to coach and say, hey, let's get him in there and see if we can get him going? And there wasn't anybody more competitive than Kidd Gilchrist. And so Darius went in there, and he had 25 or so points, got his rhythm back, lost to your Commodores down there in Nashville. But from that point on, Kentucky just went and rolled to the championship. So why do I tell you that? Fast forward a little bit. And so Michael, I think that year, wasn't he the first draft pick? Michael Jordan got him down at Carolina, and he had a good career, and he had he played for a while, and his last team was Washington. And he was in town a couple of weeks ago. Michael has always stuttered really badly. And some people that do that sort of thing, they just become mesmerized by it, and they can't get over it. And as well as he played, and as athletic as he was, he was just so embarrassed by it. And so he's doing a program down at EKU, and he, I sent one of our photographers down there to cover it. And he's trying to get more speech pathologists, it's easy for me to say, in the schools. And all of a sudden I get a direct message on Instagram. How about that? How about the old guy getting DMs on Instagram, right? And it was Michael saying, hey, thanks so much, da-da-da. And then he followed up. And this morning I'm sitting at my desk. And he and his assistant call up. And he's literally going around the country trying to help get more speech pathologists in school and to help kids just like himself. And I was trying to help him identify some folks around here, some folks up in Cincinnati that could help him. That's the kind of young man that he was when he said put Darius in. And that's what playing on a team and being selfless will stay with you guys for the rest of your lives. And so I don't know about outcomes. I don't know about scores. And you know, I don't know that you want to write down everything, right? And don't take pictures and keep them and send them because somebody always finds them, okay? So that's just my one precaution to y'all. But I mean, get a journal or something and write down something every day about practice or something that happens at school. Because guys still, when we get together, they still bust me about stuff that I can't remember. And those are some of my fondest memories. And what you'll find is when life is its worst and when life is its best, those are the calls you're going to want to make. That includes your coach. I am so blessed that every coach I played for, I've still got. I still communicate with him regularly. My 8th grade PE teacher, I see him at every UK game. He and his wife, they come down from Franklin, Ohio to see every game. And they've got seats in the upper deck. And they never ask for seats. My dad, like I said, he was not a professional guy. He never asked me for tickets for himself. But every now and then, he'd be real apologetic and he'd ask me for tickets for his guy who got him his coffee every morning at Hardee's, or somebody who was going through a hard time. And I was at the SEC tournament in 2014 and I get this call. And Dad had gone into congestive heart failure, and Mom, who we thought had some stuff going on, had locked herself in the van. She had dementia. And so, you know, we get everything going and everything, and, you know, looked like everything was going to be okay. We got Mom settled down, and then Dad had the big one day when he was walking in to see her. And so I had to go down and clean out our place in Florida that they had. It wasn't mine. And this place is covered with those silly UK posters that you get at Kroger. Dude never asked for anything for himself, but he always wanted to know when those posters were coming out. And they had them, I mean, for like 20 years worth. And they just wanted to do, at their own level, whatever they could for their friends. So look around at that guy, that gal that's next to you that's part of this team. And there are going to be days when you love them, and there are going to be days when you want to kick their tail. You're going to be out there and you're not going to be having a good day. You're not going to be getting some sleep. And somebody's going to get out there and try to be Donnie defense and steal a ball away from you. And you're going to want to give him 2 steps, let him go shoot a layup, and then plow him into the wall. That's what old fat guys do when we play basketball and somebody steals it from us. Then there are going to be days you're going to want to hug them. And I just say to this, everybody in here, you know, sometimes people are really nasty. And what I have found in my life is when somebody is nasty to me, usually doesn't have anything to do with me. Now, there's plenty to be nasty with me about, but it usually doesn't have anything to do with me. They've got something else going on in their life. There are problems at home that you don't know about. You know, they're going through. What was that? Somebody help me out with this. What was that old ad back in the '60s, public service announcement that they called the great crippler of young adults? I would just say to you guys that girlfriends are the great crippler of young adult males. You know, you're going through that whole thing, and something happens, and you're not yourself, and it's tough. Oh my gosh. I mean, I want you to imagine me when I was like really fat, and my dad wouldn't let me wear anything but like a flat top haircut with that butch wax in it, and I've got ears that look like car doors. I mean, it was horrendously tough for me. And you're going to have days like that. And it's like, wow. And it's those guys right there that's going to get you through it. And then you're going to be celebrating championships. You're going to beat people that nobody thought you were going to beat. You're going to get into a school that nobody ever thought you were going to get into. I was the first person from either side of my family to get into college. And I'm proud of that. Even though I had to take a remedial math class to get in, I'm still very proud of it. You know, what is it that you want to do? Not only for this basketball team, but for your young life. And again, you can either be bad, you can be mediocre, you can be good, you can be great, or you can be elite. And if there's ever any friction, just remember this. The elite people don't want to have anything to do with the mediocre people because they feel like they're not working hard. And the mediocre people never want to have anything to do with the elite people because they can't ever see themselves being elite. How many of you watched that Chicago Bulls Jordan documentary? Okay, so I've done a lot of games with Will Perdue, who played over at Vandy. He was the SEC Male Athlete of the Year. And, God, what does he have? I mean, he has like, 6, 7 championship rings? He's got them between the Bulls. He's got them between the San Antonio Spurs. And he said when they were playing with the Bulls and they were at their heyday, that Jordan and those guys used to sit in the back of the plane and play a big money poker game. And then all of a sudden, invariably, Jordan would come up to the front of the plane and want to play in their game, which was like a dollar game. He said it was like him and Steve Kerr and maybe Horace Grant, a couple people like that didn't have the contracts that Scotty and some of the others had, and especially Jordan. And Will said he asked him one time. He said, "Michael, what do you want to play in this game for?" And he looked at him and he said, "Because I want to put your dollar in my pocket." And that's the kind of competitor he was. You guys hang on to your teammates. You love them up. You tell those parents that are sitting out here, no matter what they're busting you for. That's what we're supposed to do as parents, right? We're supposed to bust you. That you love them. And you love each other. And it's not only going to be this season, but it's going to be the start of something special right here. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you having me. Good luck. And I hope to come over and see you guys. Are you allowed to tailgate here on campus? Well, the superintendent's there. I just want to make sure. Souder, to be honest, Greg never saw any soccer matches, I don't think, because he was in the parking lot when I got there to start the broadcast, and he was in the parking lot when I left the booth. So he could have had it up on the satellite out there. But thank you, guys. And listen, if there's ever anything we can do for you, Greg is, I mean this seriously. I have people all the time. Today's a perfect example. Today, I got phone calls from a guy who wanted me to come and see testimony in federal court on Monday. I got a call from Kid Gilchrist. And then how many of you have seen my buddy Father Jim Sitchko on the air? He's the Catholic priest from down in Richmond who's a papal missionary in Mercy. He raises money for people. He does all this stuff. And he says, "Hey, I got tickets. I'm going to be in Coach Stoops' suite for the game next week with number 1 Georgia." He said, "Could you introduce me to the CBS crew?" And I said, Well, Father, don't you have better connections than I do? And he said, we will be throwing holy water on the field, but I need you to help me get to the CBS guys. So the people you meet now, it's going to be amazing how much they're going to impact your lives later. So love each other, play hard, and whenever you think it's a bad day, just take a few minutes to realize just how blessed we all are. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Coach. Does Julia know you have this? I see it's a KHSA ball.
Yeah, he sent it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
We appreciate you, Mr. Baker. Mr. Souder, thank you so much for helping us get Mr. Baker here. Great stories. Before we get out of here, just want to thank everybody for a great evening. Really, really enjoyable. Hopefully we can make this an annual event. Beautiful venue, great food. I was told I've not ate yet. I'm getting ready to do that at the end. But just want to thank everybody. Everybody, please be safe, because Mr. Baker said it's my first time out here as well. That road's pretty tight, and I'm from Eastern Kentucky. So please just be careful, and we're going to have Coach Riley come up here and close us out with prayer before we get out here. So thank you so much.